a blind German shepherd lost in the middle of the city struggling to survive. Every day was a battle, hunger, fear, and complete darkness. He had no one, no hope, until one woman saw him, but what she didn't know was that saving him would change everything, not just for the dog but for herself too. And the next morning, something happened that no one expected. Stay until the end, because this story will touch your heart in ways you never imagined. The city was alive with noise, car horns, hurried footsteps, distant sirens, but for him it was all just darkness, a blind German shepherd. His fur dirty and matted wandered aimlessly through the streets, his ribs pressed against his thin coat, his movements hesitant, his nose twitching constantly, desperately trying to make sense of the world around him he had once seen. But abandonment had stolen his vision, malnutrition, untreated infections slowly. The light in his eyes had faded until he was left with nothing. Now he survived by instinct alone, and instinct had led him straight into danger. The traffic light changed, engines roared, tires screeched. The German shepherd froze in the middle of the road, his ears flicking wildly. At the overwhelming sound, he didn't know where to go. People shouted from the sidewalks, "Move, get out of the way." Booty couldn't see, he only felt the vibrations of the ground beneath him. Growing stronger, a car was coming. Then suddenly something grabbed him. Strong arms wrapped around his frail body, lifting him just in time. A woman had rushed into the street without thinking, pulling the dog to safety. The car sped past, its horn blaring, but she didn't care. She was too focused on the trembling dog in her arms. Her name was Emma Carter, a 38-year-old woman dressed in a simple jacket and jeans, her hazel eyes filled with concern. She gently knelt on the sidewalk, still holding onto the dog, as he shivered uncontrollably. She looked down at him, his graying muzzle, his dull, unseeing eyes. The way his frail body leaned into her, as if he'd already decided to trust. Her Emma swallowed hard. "You don't have anyone, do you?" The dog didn't move. He only let out a weak breath, as if all the strength had left him. Emma glanced around. People were watching, some whispering, but no one stepped forward. No one claimed him. He was alone, and Emma knew if she left him here, he wouldn't survive. She took a deep breath. "Come on, boy, you're coming home with me." Emma didn't hesitate. She tightened her grip on the frail German shepherd and stood up, ignoring the stares from pedestrians. This dog had known, and now he had her. The dog didn't resist. He was too weak, too exhausted. His body leaned into Emma's chest, his breathing shallow, his ribs pressed against her arms, a painful reminder of how long he had suffered. "It's okay, buddy," she whispered. "You're safe now." But deep down she wasn't sure if he even believed it. The cab ride home was silent. Emma had wrapped the dog in her jacket, keeping him close as they sat in the back seat. The driver glanced in the rearview mirror but said nothing. The German shepherd barely moved. His dull, blind eyes remained unfocused. His ears twitching at unfamiliar sounds. Emma studied him carefully. How long had he been alone? How had he even survived this long? She brushed a hand gently over his fur, her fingers finding scars beneath the dirt and grime. Her heart clenched. He'd been through so much. When they arrived, Emma carried him inside her small apartment, gently setting him down on a soft dog bed in the living room. For the first time he seemed confused. His head tilted slightly, his nose twitching as he tried to make sense of his surroundings. Emma sat beside him, letting him take his time. She knew he couldn't see, but he could feel, and right now he needed to feel safe. "You don't have to be scared anymore," she murmured. "You're home." The dog lay still for a long moment. Then slowly he exhaled, not out of fear but out of something else. Relief over. The next hour, Emma carefully cleaned him up. She filled a bowl with warm water, dipping a soft cloth in and gently wiping away the dirt. From his fur he didn't resist. He just lay there, letting her take care of him as if Noon never had before. She cleaned his paws, his ears, his graying muzzle, and when she reached his clouded, sightless eyes, she hesitated. Tears burned in her own eyes as she gently brushed away the dried tears from his fur. "You were crying before, weren't you?" she whispered. The dog didn't move. Emma swallowed hard, fighting the lump in her throat. "I don't know what happened to you," she murmured, "but you're not alone anymore." She left food and water beside him, then sat cross-legged on the floor, watching as he slowly lifted his head, sniffing. The air he took a hesitant step forward, bumping into the edge of the bowl. Emma didn't move. She let him figure it out. She let him feel safe enough to try. After a long pause, the dog finally lowered his head and started eating. Emma exhaled a breath. She didn't realize she was holding. She smiled. This was the first step toward healing the night past. Quietly, the German shepherd curled up on the dog bed, his frail body rising and falling in deep, steady breaths. For the first time in a long time, he wasn't sleeping on cold pavement. He wasn't alone, and as Emma lay on the couch watching over him, she couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just about saving a dog. This dog was about to change her life too. The next morning, Emma woke up to something unexpected. At first, she wasn't sure what had startled her. The soft light of dawn filtered through her apartment window, casting a warm glow over the living room. She sat up on the couch, stretching her muscles, sore from sleeping in an awkward position. Then she heard it, a small hesitant sound. She turned her head and froze. The German shepherd, the same dog who had barely moved the night before, was standing. His thin legs trembled slightly, but he was up. His ears twitched at every little sound in the apartment, his nose sniffing cautiously, but more than that, he was searching for her. His blind eyes scanned the room, his head tilting slightly as if trying to sense where she was. Emma's chest tightened. "He's looking for me." She swallowed hard, then spoke gently. "Hey, buddy, I'm right here." His head snapped toward her voice immediately, and then he took a step. Emma's breath caught in her throat as she watched him slowly, carefully navigate the space between them. He moved hesitantly, his front paw stretching forward, testing the ground like someone walking through the dark, but he didn't stop. One step, then another. He was trusting her. When he finally reached her, he paused. Emma stayed completely still, not wanting to startle him. Then he pressed his head against her knee. Emma gasped softly, her fingers shaking as she reached out and gently placed her hand on his back. He leaned into her touch, and for the first time his body completely relaxed. Emma couldn't hold back the tears. This dog, this blind, abandoned, broken dog, was choosing her. He had spent so long surviving on his own, walking through darkness, loneliness, fear. But now he wasn't alone anymore. Emma smiled through her tears, her fingers stroking through his fur. "You're safe," she whispered. "I promise." And the German shepherd, for the first time, he believed it. The apartment was quiet except for the soft hum of the city. Waking up outside, the German shepherd, still thin and weak, sat beside Emma on the floor, his ears flicking at the distant sounds of life beyond the walls. But he wasn't trembling anymore. He wasn't flinching at every movement. For the first time in what was likely a long time, he felt safe. Emma let out a slow breath, running her fingers gently along his fur. "You're incredible. You know that," she whispered. The dog didn't respond with movement, but she felt it, a quiet understanding, a connection forming between them. But one question still burned in her mind. Who'd let this happen to him? After a quick breakfast, Emma sat at her kitchen table, her laptop open, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Lost blind German shepherds. She hesitated before hitting enter. She wasn't sure what she expected to find. A missing poster, a heartbreaking story about an owner looking for him, or worse, nothing at all. She scrolled through their scanning news articles, lost pet forums, shelter records, and then something made her freeze. A photo. It was an old listing from an animal shelter. A German shepherd with the same graying muzzle, the same deep brown eyes, the same solemn expression. Emma clicked on it, her heart pounding. The post was dated nearly years ago. Name, Shadow, age 10 years. At the time of posting, status, adopted. Her stomach tightened. Someone had taken him home, so why had he ended up on the streets? She grabbed her phone quickly, dialing the number listed on the website. It rang twice before a tired voice answered. "Brooklyn Animal Rescue. This is Carrara." Emma took a breath. "Hi, I think I have some information about a dog that was adopted from your shelter 2 years ago. A German shepherd named Shadow." A pause, then a sigh. "Oh, him." Emma's grip tightened on the phone. "You remember him?" Cara hesitated before answering. "Yeah, he was one of our longest residence people. Didn't want an older dog, and when we finally found him a home, we were so relieved." Emma's heart sank. "Then what happened?" Cara sighed again, her voice heavier. "Now look, I probably shouldn't say too much, but the guy who adopted him, he moved out of state a while ago. We got a report last year that Shadow had been abandoned, but by the time we sent people to check, he was gone." Emma's stomach churned. He had been out there alone for over a year, blind, hungry, terrified. She swallowed hard, her free hand resting on the dog's back as if grounding herself. Does he have any medical records? Anything I should know? Another pause. Yeah, we noted vision problems when he was with us, but it wasn't severe. It must have gotten worse after he was abandoned. Emma squeezed her eyes shut because Noon took care of him. Kara's voice softened. It sounds like you are now. Emma let out a shaky breath. Yeah, I am. She hung up, staring at the dog beside her. Shadow, that was his name. Except he wasn't just some forgotten shelter dog anymore. He was her dog now, her family. Emma leaned forward, pressing her forehead gently against his. You deserve better, boy, but I promise I'll make sure you never feel abandoned again. Shadow let out a slow sigh, his tail thumping weakly against the floor. He believed her. The night settled in quietly. The city outside Emma's apartment was still alive, horns honking, distant sirens echoing, but inside, it was peaceful for the first time. In a long time, Shadow had a safe place to rest. Emma lay on the couch, eyes heavy with exhaustion, but she couldn't stop watching him. Shadow, the 12-year-old blind German shepherd, was curled up on the dog bed she had bought for him. His thin body rose and fell with slow, steady breaths, his graying muzzle resting on his front paws. He was finally home, but even as she watched him sleep, something inside her still ached. How had someone just left him? Morning came faster than expected. The golden light of dawn filtered through the curtains, casting a warm glow over the apartment. Emma stretched, feeling the stiffness in her back from falling asleep on the couch. Then she heard something, a soft noise. She turned her head and froze. Shadow was standing, not just standing, moving. His blind eyes scanned the room, his ears perking slightly. His tail, weak but determined, wagged once, and then he took a step. Emma held her breath. Another step. Shadow was walking toward her. Tears pricked her eyes as she sat up quickly, her voice barely above a whisper. Hey, buddy. His head snapped toward her voice immediately, and then he picked up his pace, not fast, not graceful, but determined. And when he reached her, he did something that made Emma's heart completely shatter. He pressed his head against her chest, not out of fear, not out of confusion, but because he knew this was home. She was his person, and for the first time in over a year, Shadow wasn't alone anymore. Emma let out a shaky laugh, wrapping her arms around his frail body. You're amazing. You know that. Shadow let out a deep sigh, his body completely relaxing into her touch. She ran her fingers through his fur, whispering softly. No more streets, no more cold nights, no more wondering if someone is coming back for you. Shadow didn't move, but Emma swore she felt him understand. His trust wasn't instant. It had taken time, but now it was unbreakable. And she would never break that trust ever. The next few days were unlike anything Emma had expected. Shadow wasn't just surviving anymore. He was wastering every morning he walked toward her. When he heard her voice at first, his steps were hesitant, careful, but by the third morning he didn't hesitate at all. He would lift his head from his bed the moment she spoke, sniffing the air, his ears twitching to find her. And when he finally reached her, he would press against her like he needed to feel her warmth to know she was really there. Emma had never experienced anything like it. This wasn't just a dog. This was a soul who had been waiting for someone to love him again. Shadow's recovery was slow, but every little step felt like a miracle. Emma made sure he ate regularly, his body gaining weight little by little. His furence, dull and patchy, started to feel softer. And then one evening something unexpected happened. Emma was in the kitchen, cleaning up after dinner when she heard it, a bark, a single soft bark. She turned, eyes wide. Shadow had barely made a sound since she found him. But no, he was sitting in the middle of the living room, his head tilted slightly toward her as if waiting for a response. Emma let out a breathless laugh, setting the dish down before walking toward him. What was that, buddy? Shadow's tail wagged once Emma knelt in front of him, placing her hands on either side of his face. His eyes were still clouded, still lost in darkness, but his expression, it was different now. He was happy. And then he barked again. This time it was stronger. Emma laughed, tears pricking at her eyes. Oh, now you've got a lot to say, huh? Shadow let out a low rumbling noise. Not quite a bark, not quite a whine. Emma gasped. Oh my God, are you talking, Tome? His tail thumped against the floor. She wiped at her face, shaking her head. You're really coming back, aren't you? Shadow lifted his head slightly, his ear spurking toward her voice. He didn't need to see her. He knew she was there, and that was enough that night. As Emma lay on the couch, she heard something that made her heart ache in the best way. Possible Shadow was dreaming. His paws twitched slightly, his breathing slow but steady for so long. She had seen dogs twitch in their sleep from nightmares, running from something, whimpering, lost in old pain. But Shadow's face, he looked peaceful, like he was dreaming of something warm, something safe, something good. And Emma realized this was the first time he had ever fallen asleep, truly knowing he was home and he wasn't afraid anymore. The morning sun streamed through the windows, casting golden light. Across the apartment it was peaceful, warm, a morning that felt different. Emma stirred awake on the couch, stretching, but as soon as she opened her eyes, she realized something was missing. Shadow's bed was empty. For a brief, heart-pounding second, panic gripped her. Where is he? Then a sound, a soft thud, a movement from the other side of the room. Emma turned her head and froze. Shadow was standing by the door, not just standing, waiting. His ears twitched toward the sounds of the outside world, his tail hanging low, but relaxed, his posture calm, patient. But what made Emma's breath catch in her throat was the leash. It was on the floor beside him, not chewed, not dragged. Placida's. If he was waiting for her, Emma slowly sat up, her chest tightening with emotion. Shadow, she whispered. He turned his blind eyes toward her. Immediately, Emma swallowed hard. Standing up, she walked toward him carefully, not wanting to break the moment her fingers brushed against the leash, her heart pounding. He's asking me for the first time. Shadow wasn't just surviving, he was ready. He wanted to go outside, to live. Emma knelt beside him, tears welling in her eyes. She clipped the leash onto his collar, whispering, "Let's go, buddy." Shadow exhaled deeply, his tail wagging once Emma opened the door, and together they stepped outside. Shadow's story is a reminder that even in the darkest times, a little love can bring someone back to life. He wasn't just rescued, he found home again. And if you've ever had a dog that changed your life, tell us their story in the comments below. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share the story with someone who believes in second chances.